A 90% chance of a recession. That is the prediction tonight from a top economist, Torsten Slok, painting a dire picture of Trump's trade war and the implications, saying it's pushing the U.S. economy to the brink of full-blown crisis. He writes that in just weeks, quote, the consequence will be empty shelves in U.S. stores in a few weeks and COVID-like shortages for consumers and for firms using Chinese products as intermediate goods. And the administration tonight not giving much of a reassurance when pressed on this prediction.
Are you worried about empty shelves?
Not at present. We had some great retailers. I assume they pre-ordered.
What about the millions and millions of small businesses that couldn't even pre-order? Never mind everyone else supposed to see in that, the crystal ball. Those great retailers were all just at the White House, some of the biggest ones. CEOs of Walmart, Target, and Home Depot, they warned Trump in that meeting that his tariffs could lead to product shortages and more. Barclays tonight is echoing the warnings in a memo to investors, writing, "We expect a sharp slowdown and a likely U.S. recession in the coming quarters." All of it comes as tonight we're learning Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Chase, reportedly told investors just days ago, according to the Wall Street Journal, that a best-case scenario is a mild recession. It's a daily drumbeat of warnings now coming from people who know a lot about the economy, and it has Americans worried. Our latest poll out this afternoon, finding a majority of Americans, 59%, say Trump's policies have made economic conditions in the U.S. worse, which could explain why the administration is tonight doing all it can to not talk about the economy. Moments ago, Trump signing executive orders, this time regarding truck drivers and what language they speak, saying they have to speak English. Just look at the north lawn of the White House, fitting that theme. It's covered in photos of people the administration say are illegal immigrants. That's what they want to talk about. That's the discussion they want to have. They certainly do not want to talk about the economy. Over the past 100 days, the Dow has sank nearly 4,000 points, trillions of dollars gone. According to CNBC, the S&P drop over the first 100 days of Trump's presidency is on track to be the worst 100-day performance in the stock market since Nixon. And that's clearly not something that you'd want to talk about if you were Trump.
The next Trump economic boom will begin on November 5th, 2024. It's going to be a boom like no other.
Words, of course, that now live in infamy at this moment. Tonight, the Treasury Secretary is trying to turn things around. They feel the clock. They feel the pressure. He's previewing deals.
I would guess that India would be one of the first trade deals we would sign, so watch this space.
It could come as soon as tomorrow. Who knows? They've got announcements in the morning. It's one of the many deals we're told Trump is making. But it's been very, very tough to pin the administration down on something of such a crucial nature: tariffs, the economy, a recession. How many deals are they negotiating?
We now have 18 proposals on paper that have been brought to the trade team.
Okay, 18. Who knows? I mean, sort of lick your finger and stick it in the air, because Trump's number dwarfs anything the White House has put out. He told Time magazine, and I quote him, "I've made 200 deals." Time responding, "You made 200 deals, Trump?" 100%. Now, never mind Caroline Levitt said Trump says 200. Let's just compare Trump's number of 200 to the list that he released when he announced his sweeping tariffs earlier this month in front of that board when they were all scrolling by. There were not even 200 countries on it in total. Now, and that remember that island? What's it called? Is there anyone here remembers that island? The island that was inhabited only by penguins. Now, one of those countries that Team Trump is continuing to say they are talking to as we speak is China.
All aspects of government are in contact with China.
China, though, keeps shutting down this claim. The Chinese embassy telling out front exclusively that no one from the Chinese government has spoken to the Trump administration. And all this back and forth has come as Trump has said he would slash the tariffs on China. Now, he said that without any negotiating or any talks at all, which brought to mind an episode of Seinfeld where George and Jerry were negotiating a deal with NBC for the show about nothing. So in this episode, NBC offers them $12,000, okay, for the whole show. And then this happened.
So what did we get?
$8,000.
Beautiful.
That's for the two of us.
$4,000 apiece?
Let me see if I understand this. In other words, you held out for less money.
I was wrong. You were right.
You know, the basic idea of negotiation, as I understand it, is to get your price to go up.
You're smart, dumb.
You know, this is how they negotiate in the bizarro world.
which may be the world that we're living in right now. Why is it that Seinfeld, there's always something there? Is Trump about to make the same deal as George Costanza? Elena Trine is out front live outside the White House to begin our coverage. So, Elena, we know that Scott Bessent may be speaking tomorrow before the markets open. They're under incredible pressure to announce some things. How much pressure is Trump feeling right now to get an actual trade deal on the table?
I think, of course, there's a lot of pressure, particularly when you look at some of the dismal polling numbers we saw from that new CNN poll. I mean, Americans are not confident right now that the president is delivering on his promise for this economic revival. I remember covering the president throughout his time on the campaign trail, repeatedly saying that it was going to be the golden age of America that he would usher in. But when it comes to the economy, Americans aren't feeling that. So yes, this administration is under heavy pressure to try and get a deal out on this. Now, we did hear Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent say a deal with India could come as early as this week. In my conversations, I'm told not to anticipate that would be announced tomorrow. But we are going to hear from the Treasury Secretary directly tomorrow morning, 8:30 before markets open. He'll be speaking in the briefing room, obviously taking questions from reporters who are going to be pressing him on that exact topic. What is the status of these trade deals? But Aaron, one thing that's been so striking to me is the president's tone on the economy. I am told that when he goes to Michigan tomorrow, he is going to try to go on offense on this issue. He's going to talk about tax cuts, which really we haven't heard anything about other than Bessent today telling people on Capitol Hill just moments ago, really, that he wants a tax cuts deal by July. But no one, Americans haven't had really, something to look forward to. And that's been the thing that I'm hearing behind closed doors has really been a key frustration. The president has said that he is willing, he wants Americans to be patient. He is willing for there to be some pain in the short term. But how long will they be able to endure that pain? That is really a key question. And tomorrow, that's going to be the focus. His 100th day in office, they are choosing to make it about the economy. And right now, it's really not one of the winning issues for this White House. Aaron,
of course. Thank you so much, Elena. An economy, sometimes you think something short term, it gets out of your control, and then you don't know what it is. All right, everyone's here with me. Dan, so let's just start off with Apollo's chief economist, Torsten Slok, came out, big analysis, and it's worth reading in full, but saying the probability of a recession now 90%. Which is just a stunning turnaround here in the past 6 weeks. What do you think?
I mean, look, we've talked about it. The uncertainty and this avalanche that's created, it's likely a recession. That's what's likely in the cards because what's happening on the enterprise and what ultimately is going to happen with consumers. Because it comes down to time's not on their side. That's why they continue to talk deals. But it's a Costanza moment because ultimately they know the cards at the table is not a good deck. And that's why the reality is that the market knows that. They know they have to walk back.
And Alexis, sometimes economics is about psychology, right? So you've got the economic reality. The CNN poll, 59% of people say Trump's policy have made things worse. It's gone up. I mean, when people get scared, sometimes a recession happens.
That's exactly right. And you often don't know you're in a recession until after the fact. Technically, a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of contraction. What's really important here is that in the fourth quarter, GDP was about 2.4%. This Wednesday, our first look at first quarter GDP is going to come out. The prediction right now is 0.8%. But a lot of folks believe it's going to be negative because you're going to see a lot of distortions for the fact that people were actually stacking up inventory in advance of the tariffs. The second thing to keep in mind is the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, which came out 2 weeks ago. That reading was the lowest reading since COVID, and the inflation predictions there took it up from 5 to 6.5%. So sentiment is absolutely not your friend right now. Add to it on Friday, you'll get the first look at the jobs data on Friday, and that will be reflective of the month of April. What is business doing?
And that shows some of this. Paul, looking at this eve of 100 days, this is your whiteboard. Dan got a whiteboard. Okay, this is your whiteboard. But this was just going through, okay, this is eve of first 100 days. Right. Okay, I want to start it with red because there's one market down. Yes. That's big, and it's down a lot, and that is ours is down 8.4%. Okay, that's the U.S. economy,
since
the U.S. market since inauguration. Yes. So basically, eve of 100 days, eve of tomorrow. Okay, and then just to pick some of the others, Canada, where the trade war is in full swing, that market is up 3.4%. I'm going off your numbers, Paul. These are the ways you track the index. Yes. Okay, UK up Imagine a world in which this was us. 10.2. Okay. Germany, the German boom we've talked so much about. Germany, okay, 18.5. Up. I mean, this is sick. Now, what about Mexico?
Mexico.
I don't expect you to remember it offhand, but
Mexico,
your number was 20.9%. So
country,
one thing stands out here.
We're outperforming Turkey.
Oh, that's some great news.
There is a glass half full kind of guy.
That's a hickey glass half full.
As a member of the administration, what would